So Brian, we've heard a lot about lentil acres being lower than last year. Last year in 2010, lentils were kind of the rage, the craze. Everyone was growing lentils. What's the story going to be for this year?
Right now, it looks like lentils will be down probably around 25% or so. We'll get the first strong indication of just how much of a decrease there's going to be when Statistics Canada comes out with its seeding intentions at the end of the month, and that will give the first clue as to whether or not farmers are doing what we think they'll do. But I don't see any compelling reason for farmers to want to stick with lentils. And I know anecdotally when we talk to farmers, they're all talking about acreage decreases this year.
Okay, so is it basically the price that's steering them away from lentils?
Returns for lentils are actually fairly decent. They're really overall are at the upper end of the historic price range for lentils. So from that, if you looked at it in isolation like that, you'd say, well, lentil prices are pretty darn good. And that's even taking into account the quality spread in the crop. That so much of the crop is being discounted because it's off grade. And when you look at that, it still looks good. The problem facing lentils is that the other crops are doing so much better. Canola returns are excellent. The outlook for wheat is excellent. The outlook for durum is excellent. That whole grain and oilseed complex is doing extremely well, and the projected returns for that are just outperforming lentils. As a matter of fact, since the beginning of the crop year, lentils have done worse relative to other crops than they had in previous years. And by that I mean is that the gross income potential of lentils is down a lot from what it should be in comparison with canola, in comparison with wheat, in comparison with durum. And that's going to be a big reason that farmers are going to leave it, is because the income potential of the crop just doesn't match up with other crops.
So what are you expecting from the demand side for lentils? Do you see global demand being strong?
Global demand for lentils is relatively strong. This year we're experiencing a downturn in export activity. The main problem, actually the biggest change that we're seeing in exports right now for lentils is from the Indian subcontinent, from India in particular. It's a very long, you have to go back almost 18 months with India to understand why their lentil imports are down a lot. But what it has to do with is a year ago their winter crop was good. Then last summer's crop was very good with pulses, and this winter's crop was very good again. And they're growing, they grow lentils in the winter. They grow another crop in the summer called a pigeon pea. If the pigeon pea crop is short, which it had been 2 years ago, they'll import green lentils and peel them, decorticate them, and use them as a substitute for pigeon pea. Last year's pigeon pea crop was really good, so there was no need to import lentils as a substitute. So we've seen India has bought less lentils from everywhere in the world that would buy lentils, whether it's Canada or the United States or whatever. And it's not even a quality issue with them, it's the fact that they simply don't need them. That's been the biggest demand hit that we've seen. And that is probably one of the key reasons that we think exports of lentils will be down at least 300,000 tons this year from last year. And even going forward into the coming crop year, I don't see exports recovering to last year's levels, although there is a chance they could be up from this year.
How about, last year we harvested a lot of feed lentils. Have we been able to push those through the system and move out that inventory?
We're going to end up with a huge increase in ending stocks, I believe. I'm right now projecting ending stocks of closing in on 500,000 tons. Last year they were 50,000 tons, so it's a tenfold increase. Most of the carryover is probably going to be junk, off-grade lentils. Lentils that many people in the world believe are non-commercial, even though they could be fed to a human being and eaten, but they probably will not work very well in any commercial market. They're not the kind of lentil people really want to spend money for. So some of the people that I talk to in other countries say that, we need to find ways of getting that disposed in food aid. One odd idea would be if farmers were to take some of those off-grade lentils and give them to, an agency that was shipping them over to some country as food aid, where they can give it as a gift, get a tax receipt, which is useful for offsetting income, and also for making yourself feeling good by doing something good. And the other agency would get money from the Canadian government, matching money for the lentils, and then they could ship it off as food aid, and that would help get rid of the crop.
So in your mind, to wrap up our lentil discussion, in your mind, what do you see being kind of the price range trade for lentils in 2011 from this point out?
From here on in, lentils appear to be in a downtrend, and I don't think that that's going to really change. To me, the fundamentals, the top grade of lentils will probably stay very strong until we get closer to new crop. Whether for bona fide number ones and really good number two lentils will stay strong because the stocks are very, very tight. There's a fundamental shortage of those qualities. With the other qualities, I see them kind of potentially drifting lower because the amount of stuff we have is simply way in excess of what the market's going to need going forward.